hate to be the one to break it to you, but sex education of the past failed us. Because birds and bees, they don't fuck. Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a show where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. My guest, I'm your host, Ariel. I'm skipping me. Look at that. I'm that excited to introduce you to Aimee. So I'm your host, Ariel Zadok. You know me. And my guest today is a certified embodied intimacy and relationship coach, podcast host, which I was just on, and fierce advocate, here to make talking about sex as normal as talking about the weather. Please welcome to the show, Aimee Latta.
Yay! Hello.
So happy to have you on. I'm so happy that I was on your show, now you're on my show, and this is the fun part about being podcasters together in this space.
We love a good switch.
We do love a good switch. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Oh my God, it's like so many different directions that I can start with you. So maybe we'll just start with podcasting a little bit. And you are, I think, a little bit newer on your journey than I am. I think I've got actually, so I took like a year and a half off, or like maybe a 2-year break almost. So we may be catching up to each other, but in terms of episodes, I think are you in the 30s or the 20s at this point?
I'm on episode 29 as of this recording. So we're going into the 30s. Like that, it was like getting to the 10 episode stretch was a stretch. It's like, can I make it? You know, like the little engine that could. I think I can. And then once I hit 15, it was just smooth sailing from there. Not smooth sailing, let's be honest, but I got more of a system down, and it's all just play and experimentation at this stage.
Yeah. And I love that you bring up that first 10, because I don't know if you know these stats, but it's like 90% of podcasters, if not a higher percentage, only make it to the second episode.
Yes.
So the amount of people who start this and don't finish it. And I personally was like, I wasn't necessarily beating myself up for taking such a long break, because I knew that I needed it. And I also knew that I was coming back. So I'm like, I'm not really that worried about it. I know that I am not a statistic, but getting to the 5th episode is a big deal. Getting to the 10th episode is a big deal. Getting to the 20th, I think for me, it started to really feel real when I got into like the 30s. That's when I was like, oh, I'm doing it. Like that's a lot of episodes. 29 is a lot of episodes.
Yeah. And I will say, I have, I started the podcast in May for Masturbation May because why not?
Yeah. Mine started in just about May also. I think it was like the last day of April or something like that, but I did the same thing. Forgot about that.
I mean, we have to, right? Like, we love a good correlation between sex and what we're doing. So, so it's been less than a year, but I started in 2025, 2026, I definitely have some different goals for myself. And, I'm starting to see the expansion, which is really exciting. So there must be something about that 30th episode space where the energy changes.
Yeah, I think it just by the 30s, you really have it down for the most part. Like you have your process down. I'm a producer, so I kind of had my process beforehand because I do for a living. So for me, it's my second podcast too. So I had done it before. So I kind of knew what to do differently. Even coming back for season 3, I'm like, okay, well, I know what I'm doing differently now. I know what I'm keeping the same. That was a great system. I know what's going to make this even easier for me and more sustainable for me this time around. And
amazing.
I'm sure when I break again for season 4, I'm going to come back and have even more and hopefully money. Join the Patreon, by the way.
Yes.
It's a growth pattern. So I do think once you get into those 30s, I'm so excited for you and everything that's to come. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And shout out to you for taking a break. That is huge. I mean, self-care, we need it, and I'm so excited for episode or not episode, sorry.
Season.
I'm so excited for season 3 coming up. It's exciting, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here. And so I'm curious, what was it that made you want to take your sex coaching and the embodiment and relationship coaching into podcasting?
Yeah, so my platform is called Come Talk with Aimee, right? And so it's been from the beginning in a space where we can talk about sex. Like I want to initiate and make conversations more common, more normalized, if you will. And so I've just been playing around with it. Like how is this gonna work? My platform, even though I opened it in like I opened my account up and then I just started building in the space, taking coaching. I've worked in healthcare for 20 years, as a nurse, as a public health professional. And I was really trying to figure out, like, as I stepped into this specific space, like, what would that look like for me and playing with my own sexual edges and kind of networking in the space. But I opened up my platform publicly last March. And then in March itself, was doing Instagram lives, and I also, took on a mentor at that time, and our first meeting, she was like I said, "I just started these Instagram lives, and I'm trying to figure it out," and she's like, "So, Instagram lives, have you thought about a podcast?" And it was a really good push for me because I was like, "Well, yeah, actually, that's something why I'm doing this is to see if I like it," and I really loved just sitting down. Mine is also guest style, so I have guests come. Um, every episode, although I've started to do something once a month, called Quickies, where there's like a little quickie with me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of the start, and then I like I said, that conversation happened sometime in March, and then April, I did the planning, and then May, I launched the podcast. So I really ran with it, and I just was like, I am not doing this quote unquote perfect, even though I am a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to do the thing because I know that if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, you kind of have to jump on the train when you have that momentum, and working with a mentor is like such a great thing. And I love that you're working with a mentor, not necessarily a coach, because those are
Right.
different dynamics. Do you want to talk a little bit about like what the coaching relationship would look like versus a mentorship relationship?
Yeah, sure. So a coach is there to kind of help as far as, with not to cheer you along. I don't know if that's really but
There's some, I mean,
coach
there's like accountability and encouragement all rolled into one.
yeah, like you're going in with a specific goal, they're giving you resources. Whereas with a mentor, it's really like a professional in the space, right? In the particular space. And it's more of, I would say, from a business perspective rather than, it's not to say that it's not goal oriented, obviously, but it's more learning from kind of the mentorship and building it or learning from the business rather and building it out that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's almost like kind of like like if you have a good boss, they are your mentor. So
Right.
when you're talking about a coaching relationship, there's even if it's for business coaching, you are going to go into like the psyche a little bit more, not to the point of like a counselor or a therapist and like people
Yes.
really need to know their boundaries there. But like coaching is going to be a lot more of looking at what's going on, coming up with the action plans, taking action, looking into your thought patterns, like doing some, not everyone is holistic, but like looking into some of those other things where a mentor is going to be like, hey, I've been in the business for X amount of years. This is what I did. This is what I learned. This is how I navigated through something. Here's what I learned along the way and what I think could be helpful for you, which is different than a coach that's like maybe not doing the exact same thing as you or have that exact same business experience as you. So I think it's a really powerful thing to be working with a mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. She's fabulous.
Yeah. And so what has been as someone who works in sex and sexuality, what has it been like for you to also be a public speaker on this stuff and to be in the podcasting realm, and like how has that shifted things for you, or what's come of that for you?
Ooh, such a great question. I first and foremost feel like an educator, right? And especially like I said, I have a background in public health, so population health at a larger level, larger scale. And so and I love just having conversations and asking people a bunch of questions and making it funny, right? And
Yeah.
something that's like educational, but with an edge, right? My approach is pretty bold and I'm filtered as much as I can be with, Meta and
Oh my
all of
God.
the social media gremlins.
Mm-hmm.
But
The little gremlin.
um, yes. But yeah, so I mean, for me, like, I think the thing is putting myself out there in the social space and like the social media space is very new, right? It's
Mm.
beyond just LinkedIn. Right. And so that is a very different game. And I don't come from like a marketing background or a production background. So I'm really learning on the fly here. But it's so fun.
Yeah. And so for me, part of stepping away from coaching and just like really focusing more on like producing and the different aspects of things, um, I've been a coach since 2014.
Okay.
And so I've been like going through the cycles of like coaching trends and marketing trends and all these things. And the thing that I really just owned by the end of 2025, the thing that I was just like so crystal clear on was like, I don't want to be in people's inboxes and I don't want to have to
Mm.
be an influencer. And I'm curious what the experience has been for you as a coach, also having a podcast, because we are just because you make a podcast doesn't mean that people know it exists. So we still have to do a
Yes.
good amount of marketing and drawing people in and all of the layers and layers of marketing, maybe a little bit differently than coaching specifically has to do, because this already is the material. But I'm curious what that experience has been like for you, coming from public health and then going into coaching and getting your certifications and getting everything lined up just to be like, oh shit, now I got to do this side of things. What has that been like for you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I call the podcast, especially right now, because it is a run, not a sprint, right? And so or a marathon, not a sprint, that's the
Marathon. Yeah,
same.
yeah. Mhm.
I was like, it's all running. Um So I call the podcast my garden. Like it is my passion project. It is, some people have a garden, I have a podcast, right? And so I mean, it is a different wheelhouse as far as like being seen as, media versus where coaching it's more one-on-one. We're
Mm.
working on your specific issues. I'm working with specific clients. And so, yeah, it is a shift. And also, like, again, you know, I did step into this space as my name or as my platform is called Come Talk with Aimee. Like, it really was, how can we have these conversations? So, in some ways, it was kind of a natural flow, but it is all of the logistical production side of things that's been um, a learning curve.
Yeah. And I will say we're so fortunate in this time frame, because there are so many tools. Even in the time that I've been away and when I've come back, the tools that I was using before, a lot of them have upgraded and I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're better," or actually you made this upgrade but it's a little bit worse. It's not as user friendly as you think it is. You did this update and now it's not as good, or it is fun
Mhm.
to like see all these learnings and how things have shifted and changed. But one thing is the same, is that you're still, it is still matter of fact of like, you have to be in the emails and you have to be an influencer and you have to make these videos that are also getting banned at the same time. So it's
Yes.
like, how do you, it's such a difficult thing for any of us working in this because it's like, okay, we have great information, we have great services, we have great edutainment, we've got all these things, and we still need to find the people. But in order to find the people, we get suppressed. And it's like, it's a challenging conundrum, if I may, to be in. And it's
Yes.
like, how, I mean, I think this cross stuff is really good because if people listen to this and they are like, ooh, I vibe with them, then they can go and watch your show and then learn more other, other sexperts, and then they go see what they're up to. And I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. But yeah, there's a lot of realities to doing this work at this time, especially while the world is just like so volatile.
Yes, absolutely, and we're constantly being suppressed.
Mm,
Just the word woman is being suppressed, let alone sex and masturbation and all of these things. And that is a challenge, and I think, a constant challenge of, again, going to that marketing piece of where are my people and, like, the content that I'm creating, these conversations that I'm having. I just had, Ian Kerner, who's the
oh
author of
yeah,
Come Yeah. Um,
she comes first,
She Comes
right? I
First,
think, yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
on the pod, and then, the first, video that I put the first reel I posted, it was suppressed, I was shadow banned, and I
Mhm.
was like, "We need, to get his message out, but, like, how do we get it out?" And
Yeah.
so it is kind of this constant thing of how can I find my people? Collaborations, like, are definitely helpful, and from what I understand from others in the space that it just kind of takes time, and we're
Yeah.
always constantly wondering, like, "How do I grow my audience?"
It does take a lot of time, and something I was just talking about this on another episode that I shot today, like, literally this idea of, like, things just take time, and you do need to keep showing up for them. And something that was really interesting that I found is that even though I took all of this time off, I now that I'm talking about the show again, because of course when I was taking time off, I wasn't really talking about it that much, but I'm talking about it again now. And it has been really fun to hear people be like, "Oh, I know that show," or like, "Oh, I follow that," or something. And I'm just like, "Wait,
I love
what? I
it.
don't even have that." I mean, on Instagram, I don't have that many followers. I don't have that many followers, like in general, but it also goes to show that even if people aren't following you, they're still seeing what you're doing. So, and
Yes.
it just takes time. I mean, I'm excited to be coming back for another season to see what happens, but also I really don't want to get caught in the wheel of Instagram and suppression and navigating all of those things. It's like we just want to come up, we just want to show up and do the work.
Yes.
And it's frustrating for sure when we're like blocked from ever doing that, or we have to do so much of this other stuff to do it, which I get. Like, actors have to audition and market to do the acting is like such a small piece of it. So it's a little spider web.
Such a spider web, and yeah. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. But we're
But
showing up. We're showing up because the
mhm.
information has to be there. And I love the name of your show too, Come Talk with Aimee. Like it's just like, yeah, let's just come on over. Let's have a conversation. And if more
Yeah.
people did have that perspective around sex, intimacy, relationships, like just come over and talk about it. Like let's just talk about it. That would be chef's kiss. It would be chef's kiss.
Chef kiss. Come talk about come talk.
Yeah, come talk. Imagine if we had a sex positive TikTok called Come Talk.
Yes, please. I
That
would
would
love
be
that.
so delicious. It would be so delicious. So you went from public health, which is arguably sure there's some sex and sexuality in there, but not really. And now
Mhm.
you are an embodied sex coach, relationship coach, and I'm curious what that transition was in terms of people who knew you and who were like, "Oh my god, now you're talking about sex." Or were you in a sector that it made sense for you to do this? Because that can be a very big scary change.
Yes, and I'm still transitioning. I'm still in my transition phase, I would say. So different honestly, there were people that pleasantly surprised me, right? Where it was like, all of a sudden it's like, "Oh my god, I love that you're doing this. This is so needed, da da da." So, I'm also a nurse, so I've worked clinically. And before this, I was at the World Health Organization working first for the European regions, first with COVID, and then also on MPOX. And I was the mass gathering consultant. So the last projects I was working on was UEFA 2024 and the winter, the Summer Olympics in France
Mhm.
in 2024. So, to go from that, like, very, professional space, and not that this is obviously a profession, but
Yeah.
to more, I mean, I loved working at the World Health Organization. Honestly, it's one of the best organizations that it is the best organization that I've worked at. Um, but it's also like I was working with dignitaries and ministries of health. And while I was at the World Health Organization on MPOX, because in 2022
I
and
remember.
2023, MPOX was circulating largely among men who had sex with men. So
Mhm.
while I was there as the mass gathering consultant, I created a database of all of these large mass gatherings that could be potential spreaders. So I'm looking on, a lot of interesting websites.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, it was part of like, I've wanted to work in this space. It kind of helped springboard me into, there were a few steps, but one of that was here and I was working with, because they brought a lot of people on who had worked in the HIV AIDS
Yeah.
for a long time, but also ones who had worked on, HIV and AIDS in back in the 80s and 90s. Like we had
Yeah.
one like consultant, um, and several other people who had worked back then, and we were applying the lessons learned from that. And there was a lot of or not people centered, but like working with communities, which I was just like so fascinated and learning about like the public health aspects that was going in. So there's an element, but then to go from that to like, because I talk in a very bold, like I said, bold and unfiltered way, like um to go from, here's what we need to do for prevention and risk, than to be like, let's talk about like the last time you had sex, and let's talk about masturbation and coming and all of these things, like, yeah, it is a bit of a twist. And some people that I've told, they're like, "Oh, okay." And not only, I mean, yes, from my public health, like professional side, I live in New York, and before I was at the World Health Organization, I worked at Columbia for almost 6 years, Columbia University in
Yeah.
the medical center, in management. And so I saw one of the doctors that was like a associate chief at the time that I worked with him. So we live in the same neighborhood, and I saw him on the train, and I was like, "Oh, hey." And he's like, "What have you been up to?" And I was like, "Oh, I have a podcast now." And he was like, "What's the podcast? That's so awesome." And I'm like, and I hesitated a little bit, like,
Yeah.
do I tell him? Like, this chief medical officer, like, what?
That Yeah,
Yeah.
they
And I
they have nurse
did.
education, by the way, too. So it's like you even as a coach versus like an educator. I mean, I don't know which your certification lies in, but like
Yep.
as a sex educator, I have more hours than the chief medical officer
Yes.
unless they specifically studied that, which is a fascinating reality of the medical field. Same thing
Yes.
with like holistic health coaching. Like I have more education in nutrition than a doctor who didn't specifically study that, which is like that kind of stuff
Right.
blows my mind. So it would make sense that a lot of these people in the medical field would be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting."
Yes. They know the anatomy, like, we all
Yeah.
learn the anatomy. I learned the anatomy left and right in nursing school. I was thinking about this. I went to nursing school at BYU, Brigham Young University, and that's another, like, shock factor as far as telling people in my life, but I don't know why, like, this memory has popped up recently, but my first semester, of when I was in undergrad, I was in the anatomy lab, and working with the cadavers, and they had some models of real organs, right, in cases. And I was on one table and there was this model of the uterus on another table in formaldehyde, right? And somebody across from me bumped it and the uterus like came and splashed on me.
What?
If there was not a sign that I should be
Right?
working in this space, like I think God's been trying to tell me that for a long time, or the universe, but it's funny.
Wow. Or what I call Gus, God, universe, source. Whatever you believe
Ah,
in. Gus Gus, like the little mouse from Cinderella is what I think of. Like little Gus Gus, Gus Gus with all the cheese.
I
Running
love
around
it.
helping.
Gus Gus. Yes.
That is hilarious. I can't believe you had, and also I'm curious because so the uterus, when we see it on these charts, it's a stretched out version of the uterus, but in
Mm.
reality, the way that a uterus sits is not like with these pretty little trees and like these cute little arms and the ovaries are like hanging at the end of the arms. It's like squished or
Yeah.
maybe it's like squished under like that, but like it's squished in the space. So I'm curious what it looked like in the formaldehyde there and how it was just, floating about.
Yeah, I mean, it was on,
They
little
stretched it.
stakes type of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
they had cut what they had done is they had cut it, open, and so and all of, like, our body is, filled with, like, tissue, right?
Mhm.
We have units that and layers that keep everything and hold things together, right? So all of
Mhm.
that's obviously removed, and just the organ was dissected, and then they had a cross section of the uterus, so it was a cross sectional thing. So it did resemble kind of what the picture would resemble, which is a cross section of the uterus.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it would be in that sense, it would be stretched out. But did they because not a lot of people know that. They don't know that
Hmm.
your uterus is not it's not actually stretched out in the way that you think that it is because it's in your body and it has to move.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's like lots of tissue and there's blood and there are all these different things. So is that something when you're in those anatomy classes, because I'm not a nurse, I haven't done these things. And now I'm like, ooh,
I
let's
know.
go
Go down
down
an
this
anatomy
rabbit hole.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm curious if they talk about like what you're looking at the chart versus like, okay, but this is actually how it sits in the body and how you would be interacting with it in the body. And because obviously, if you're going to have to give needles up something or whatever, you have to understand that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where like anatomy, where we're literally, looking at cadavers and seeing how the organs are within the body. And yeah, we definitely go into that. And at the same time, like that does not translate into it's the mechanics, right? It's the biological factors and the anatomical factors, but it doesn't translate into what I would constitute as sex ed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that it does go into the okay, so actually let's just pivot into this question then. And so where did you grow up?
I grew up in Utah.
You did.
I did.
Wow. Okay. So Utah. Wow. Okay. So what do you remember of your sex education?
So I grew up so two things. Okay. The best sex education that I had in Utah was in 5th grade.
Mhm.
And that was not sex education. That was like more like pre, right? So
Mm.
I remember these two I think they were a husband and wife team, very like gregarious, funny sex educators that came in and we're like 5th graders, like what are we at 10 at that age?
Yeah.
And so they're all of a sudden they're talking penis and they were using all the words. And they did talk about condoms then, but they were talking about periods and they did talk about like ejaculation, right? Because that's when people are starting
Yeah.
to explore their bodies, if not before then. And I just was like, I loved their passion. Like I was like, these people are so fun and they're making this sound so fun. Okay. But it was also embarrassing, right? Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like what are they talking about?
I imagine
And
them with like little guitars, like kind of like Dana, what's his name? Dana something from SNL and Church Lady. Like, not that they were Church Lady-esque, but like I just picture them as like this couple coming in and like singing songs about the penis.
they were like really no bars, like, and they were just having fun with it and just really like, I mean, again, I was in 5th grade, but I just remember the impression that I remember is like, oh, this is like, we can talk about this and we can have fun with it. And it was very, unique compared to, I mean, I was still in elementary school, right?
Mhm.
Going into junior high, nothing. High school, what they called sex ed, and I'm in the 90s. So that was a huge push of ABCs, right? Abstinence,
Yeah.
condoms, and yeah. Would a
Wait,
AB
what was the
no, oh, be
B? Birth
faithful.
control? No.
Be
Be great.
faithful.
Be faithful or grateful?
Be
Be faithful.
faithful.
Wow. Wait, did you
Yeah.
go to a religious school?
No, but
Okay, but
that's
in
the
Utah,
ABCs was
I've never
no,
heard
this
of.
was ABCs was like a national thing. I think was it Bush? The first Bush that
Yeah.
was really pushing it. And
Wow.
so yeah, so this was like on a national level, right? We stopped at abstinence. Like we did not in Utah, like we stopped at abstinence. We did not learn. I see on videos and movies where they're learning the banana, like they're taking the banana and there's
Mhm.
unwrapping the condoms and they're like figuring out there were no condoms passed around. Like we stopped at abstinence.
Yeah.
And then I think it was abstinence. And then we watched a childbirthing video where it was like, you don't want to get pregnant because this is what you'll go through.
Mhm. Yeah.
That was the education.
I just had a thought. I don't know why your stories made me think of this, but I'm like, I really remember so little from my own sex education that I'm like, should I just reach out to like everyone I went to school with to be like, send me a voice memo so I don't remember shit. Do you remember shit? Cause
Oh
I'm
my
like,
god.
the ABCs, if that was a nationwide thing, I mean, I went to a Hebrew day school until 6th grade. So if they were doing it in 5th grade, I would have missed that because private school and whatever, I don't even know if they taught us anything. I have no idea. But that is a very new concept for me. And I haven't actually had a guest share that either. So that's real, or that I can remember at this point. So that's so interesting. And I also think like, if I was giving stars away for like the most fun sex education story, that's for sure it. The husband and wife duo coming in there. Do you
They
feel
were
like,
fabulous.
I mean, I know you were in 5th grade, so you weren't thinking about this, but like, you think they fuck? Or are they just like, yeah, we just teach these things. You know what I mean? Because like, there could be the people that are like, oh yeah, we teach this stuff and we're a husband and wife duo. But then there are other people that are like, yeah, we teach this stuff and we fuck.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I know. Yeah, that wasn't on my radar then, but
Yeah.
like absolutely, probably. They
Yeah.
definitely, had a pep in their step. So
So they were
it
probably
was
having some
definitely either
orgasm.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so
Like,
funny.
yeah, actually the first episode that I did was on shame.
Mm.
And we were talking about the ABC method. My guest was Rebecca, and we both of us were like, "What was the B?" And so she looked it up, and both of us were like, "Be faithful!"
Be
Like, oh my
faithful.
god,
That's wild. Like abstinence, but if you're not abstinent, at least be faithful. And even if you're being faithful, use a condom, I guess. I don't know what
right?
is going
Well, I
on there.
think it's like if you weren't being faithful, then use a condom. Like
Yeah.
it was those steps. Like
Like if you're not
abstinence is
being
the gold
abstinent,
standard.
yeah. Oh my God. And none of that, I mean, we didn't talk about consent back then.
Oh
It was more,
no.
I mean, especially the 90s, like think about the whole like stretch and yawn and everything was like, do you remember the game that was someone would put a hand on their thigh and they'd say, "Are you nervous?" And then they'd move it up and say, "Are you nervous?" Move it up. "Are you nervous?" Did you guys do that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fucked up game. I mean, I guess it could be like
Oh.
anticipatory. Like you can see it as like anticipatory fun and like we talked about the boundaries beforehand and that is you can take a lesson of anticipation away from that, but inherently it's a very problematic game for teenagers to play.
Yes,
But I guess
absolutely.
that's also now that I'm saying that part out loud, that's as close to consent as we got. 'Cause they were asking, "Are you
Mhm.
nervous?"
There was an ask in there,
There was
right?
an ask in
And a
there,
check-in.
but it was like a coercive ask. That's so
Yes.
interesting. I actually never thought about that in like a that's probably the only consent we really ever got. It's this fucked
That's
up game.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then I went to BYU where it was a rule that you couldn't have sex or you'd be kicked out of the university.
What? Did you know
Yes.
anyone that was kicked out?
From having sex, I didn't personally,
Mm.
were people having sex, people were having sex. People would go to Vegas and get married just to have sex and then, like, have it annulled. Mhm.
The amount of work that goes into the commitment. Meanwhile, dating in 2026, you can't even get someone to commit to a freaking text message.
I
These people would
know.
go to Vegas to get married. How far away was Vegas from where you were?
6 hours drive,
I mean, that's a fun road trip for sure. But all that
right?
to fuck once and then get annulled, like, that's
Yeah.
wild. Was it a religious school, or is it just, again, like, the context of being in Utah in general, it was so overwhelmingly purity culture oriented?
No, Brigham Young University it's a private, university owned by the Mormon Church.
Oh, it's that one.
It's that one.
Okay. Did you grow up Mormon?
I did. So, my parents were married in the temple, which is the Mormon, like, it's not the church, but it's, like, where the, highest, ceremony has taken place.
Oh.
And then I'm one of 4, and so my parents got divorced when I was 1.5,
Oh, wow.
and I grew up with my mom, and then we would go to my dad's on weekends, and my dad and stepmom, ultra Mormon to this day. And my mom in the night in well, that was back in the 80s, being a divorced, like, single woman, like, so highly stigmatized. She was not welcome, like, in the church really, and she
Yeah.
also, probably because of I think it was, like, my dad remarried, before I turned 5, and, my mom, the first day that she smoked a cigarette was, like, when on his wedding day, she, like, went and got her pack of cigarettes, and so she became, like, and maybe she always was, after the marriage, I don't know when this happened, but she was very hypersexual.
Really?
Yes.
I wonder if it's I mean, oftentimes when we grow up, like, suppressed or in, like, a conservative I mean, I grew up conservative, but I was pretty freaky back then too, though. But yeah, that makes total sense because now she's like, well, fuck it, I could do whatever I want. I'm going to use this to my power, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and I think and yeah, so her journey was that, and, but, we were so she was we were hearing about sex all the time, but not in a way. It was more of, like, what you see on the movies, right?
Mm,
As far as, like, it was more crass, it wasn't an education.
yeah,
I wasn't getting a sex education, to the point of, like, knowing what was actually going on in sex. It was just we were hearing about it.
it's kind of like words flying around, but not conversations.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so what was that like for you as a kid to be going back and forth between a very conservative house where like you probably couldn't even say maybe he couldn't even say you got your period or whatever, like who knows, to another house where you're just like hearing these things and these words and what was that like for you as a kid learning about sex and navigating that stuff?
Yeah. Well, it was so interesting because I didn't really go to church consistently until I became a teenager,
Mhm.
and then it was like I chose to go. So up before that point, it was like, here's my dad who's like, what word did I used to think? Like a prude.
Mhm, yeah.
I'm like a 5, like a 7-year-old, like my dad, the prude.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so
but
fun. Like, you're just a little kid running around saying that. I mean, but we did. We said that word. That was often used, even
right,
if you had no
right.
idea what that meant.
Mhm. But yeah, I just knew, and, like, there were different rules, like, we would always go to church when we were at his house,
Mhm.
like, that was a whole thing, but I was just like, "This is so boring, like, I don't know why we need to be here," you know? And it wasn't until I was a teenager where I was consistently going because my mom did not stop any of us from going to church. We always had that option. My brothers and sisters were going, and I would, like, sometimes go and sometimes not, you know, with them. Most times not. Like, who wants to, when you're a little kid, go to sit and because back
Yeah.
then, it was 3 hours church every
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
It's a lot.
No, thank you. Like,
Mhm.
I'd rather play with my Barbies, you know?
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of like code switching in a way when we were going back and forth between the different environments. Like, my dad's felt really strict,
Yeah.
whereas my mom, like, well, as far as like from a moral, you know, using like Utah words,
Utah
like from a
language, yeah.
moral stand code, you know, standpoint, a lot of, because we came from a household that was, you know, my mom smoked, we didn't go to church. And so a lot of the kids in our neighborhood from, you know, my mom's, um, the neighborhood that I was going to school with and everything, we would all like all of the people who were quote unquote, you know, not real, what they used to say is in Mormon terms is less active
Mm.
or not more like not a member. We were all friends because the members weren't like we're told not to hang out with us.
You're like the bad kids.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. But then you would go to this
Um,
home where you were, like, in the good kid category.
yes, very confusing.
Yeah.
And all of my siblings, we had different journeys with that. Like my oldest siblings, they when they turned teenagers, it was the opposite. So they were going and
Mm.
then they decided to stop going, right? And my brother, my oldest brother, they're the Utah kids are still having sex because my niece was at my brother and her mom's high school graduation when she was like 1 or 2 months.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause, my brother got his high school girlfriend pregnant. But and then my brother and the brother that's, closest in age to me, the 3rd child, like, I think he was always going to church, and to this day, he still is.
Yeah.
And then, like I mentioned, I started going, I like to say that I entered the religion, as consciously as I left it.
Yeah. And that's a really powerful thing because I was the opposite where I grew up in a conservative Jewish home. And by
Mm,
the time I was like 14, it was like freshman year or something like that. So I think I was like 14 and I was just like, I'm not going anymore. Like, it's so disrespectful for me to be here. I'm fucking around the whole time. I don't believe in any of this stuff. Like, I'm done. There's no point. But it was a very conscious thing for me too, because I never really bought into anything. Like, I just don't believe in the rules or whatever. I can believe in the beauty of it and why people do it, but for me, I was just like,
right.
I'm done. Like, there's no reason for me to be here. And I really admire the fact that you were like, you know what, I do want to be here because that's a really powerful thing, especially as a teenager. I think on either side of it, because I think it may be,
Absolutely.
you know, it's for me, it was like, I know myself and I know what I believe in, and I'm very steadfast in my beliefs. And it sounds like that was probably your experience as well, as opposed to like, I just don't want to be here.
Yep.
It was very thought. I had thought about that for years. I had questioned things for years. And it was just like, by the time I finally said something to my parents, I was just like, it's just not appropriate for me to be here. It's so disrespectful that I'm fucking around in the coat closet and all you people are in
Yeah.
there praying. Like, that's it. I'm not even going in the room. It's fucked up.
Right.
Like, I just should, I don't belong there. But for you, it was like, I am curious about this. I want to be here. And did you have any sex education through the church or was it all just through
Oh,
school? Okay.
no.
Because some
Oh,
churches do, and it's not
no.
good, but you know,
Oh, that would be interesting. No. The education that we got, as teenagers, so they have, um, a young men's and a young woman's, right? So that's like
yeah.
the groups, right? And then there's different leadership. Leadership is big in the church in all of the different areas. So the young women, the young men's on weekdays, every weekday night they'd have activities, right? Because they want to keep the kids like out of getting in trouble,
Keep them
right?
busy.
So for 12 to
Keep 'em
18 year
busy,
olds,
then they won't get busy, but they will.
they will. Where there is a will, there is always a fucking way.
Where there's a Willie.
So the boys were like playing, they got to play games, like they got to play basketball and all of the things. We were literally talking about marriage, making vision boards of marriage, what our wedding dress was going to be like.
Grooming,
We were
grooming.
actually going to bridal shops as like 12
As
to
wow.
17-year-olds to try on dresses. Yeah, that was, we were told the only sex education we were told was abstinence, like do not have sex. Sex before marriage is a sin. And there's also in Mormonism, for people that I mentioned the temple earlier that my
Mhm.
parents were married in. So when you go to the temple, you make certain covenants, and it's like kind of seen as like the highest covenants you can make with God. And as part of that, you then start wearing undergarments that have even they've shifted throughout the years, depending on what's going on, right, in the world, I think. Now, so because I did go through the temple, um, and I did not get married in the temple, but I did go through the temple to make those covenants. And you wear these garments. So the top are cap sleeves, and then the bottoms are just above the knees. At least they used to be.
Wow.
Now, like just recently, like in 2025, they changed the tops where they're sleeveless, which is interesting. Like that is like
So
I
like
could
a
not show
spaghetti
my
strap?
sleeves. Not a spaghetti strap, but like kind of, I'm assuming kind of like
Tank
what you're
top.
wearing, where tank top-ish. Yeah,
Oh,
tank
yeah.
top-ish.
Because when you said, like, the little sleeves, I was kinda picturing like this, but, like, maybe, Little House on the Prairie kind of
Yeah.
sleeves, like that kind of a vibe, but that's so interesting.
Yeah, a little
I think
bit.
I've heard about that before, but, like, that is really interesting.
Yeah, and also, like, the neckline too, like, I don't know what I just heard about that now they're, not the cap sleeves anymore, but I
Mhm.
don't know, did they also inch up, but people, like, since they've been wearing garments, have, like, been inching them up or, like, moving them to non-cap sleeves. So I would like to think that it's probably, a combination of things, but Secret Lives of Mormon Wives
I have to
on.
watch that. I really need to get on board and just start. I'm so not a reality show person, but
Yeah.
I do get yeah, I need to watch that.
I'm not either, but I feel like it's my culture,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I needed to watch that one. Um, but anyways, so why I was bringing up the garments is something that we would like that was always a question, because you're never supposed to take the garments off,
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
except for
What about
swimming.
shower? Oh, okay.
Swimming, shower, the S's, swimming, shower, and maybe sex. This was controversial. Some people, because there's holes, and
You
so
could
it's
fit in
like.
what you needed to fit in. You could still get it done. You don't
Exactly.
have to. That's wild. That is
Yeah,
so
so
desexualizing sex. That's wild.
yes, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So that
I
was
need
always
to
a question. It's
yeah,
like, can I have sex? Can we have am I
I'm
a
ready to do
good
this.
Mormon or LDS person if I take my garments off to have sex?
Yeah. I'm gonna pause really quickly because my dog
Okay.
just ate. She finished her food. Now she's like, I need more.
Mine went to bed, I think.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
sweet.
she's sleeping on the couch on
Oh,
my coat.
yeah. Having an older dog trying to get in pink on is rough.
Aw.
Let's see. I've never given her food. I usually like scoop it out into the bowl and I'm like, let me just take the top off and see how that goes. Maybe I just made my life easier all around. I don't know. Let's see.
Right?
Efficiency.
You came up with a new hack.
I know. We love a new hack.
Yes.
I'm curious what your journey was then from going from this type of an upbringing to like, how did you get into sex and sexuality in this specific way? Not just from the perspective of like public health and policy and the stuff that you've dealt with, WHO, but from the perspective of like sex education and pleasure and that whole world.
Yeah, I love this question. And it is very personal. And I feel like every person that I've met who works in the space has their own journey, right? In like really stepping into what I like to call their pleasure power.
Mm.
So for me, I was not having sex in my 20s. I was doing a lot of dry humping.
Hmm.
Now the Mormon kids apparently do soaking. Have you heard?
Yes. There's soaking and there's jumping too. Have you heard of
What
jumping?
is jumping?
So jumping, I think it's called jumping. Um, she's having trouble trying to eat food from
Oh,
there. Hang on.
no.
Let me mix it up for her, and then I'm going to tell you all about jumping.
Okay, I wanna
Jump on
hear.
the chair. Oh, Rosie. Here, sweetie. Here, let's do this. Okay. Try to hack and it didn't work. It's okay. There you go. Watch. She's like not going to eat this now. She's probably going to be like, I just wanted it there. I just wanted
I
to know
love
it was
it.
there.
Of
Yes.
course. I know my dog just woke up. She's like, "Hey,
What's happening?
you come to
So,
say hi? Did you say food, mom? Did
yeah,
you
did
say
I hear?
food?"
I thought I heard some tapping of a food jar.
Yes, actually.
So
Um,
jumping is, and I think it's called
yes.
jumping or bouncing. No, I think it's called jumping, but basically it's soaking. And if you don't know what soaking is when you just put the penis inside, but you don't do any pumping. They have since learned or tried to justify in their heads, well, what if I get a friend to jump on the bed and then I'm not thrusting, but the jumping will make us inherently go in and out. So if we're soaking, then we're not having sex. And if I have a friend that's jumping on the bed and there's movement, well, I'm still not having sex because I'm not moving anything. And it's like the
So
justification.
wild.
It's so wild. It is so, so wild. But again, like kids are going to do what they're going to do. Like teenagers are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to experiment. And the reality is, when we're
Yes.
looking at abstinent sex education, it may delay their first sexual experience or their first penis and vagina sexual experience, because it sure as hell doesn't delay anything else. But the likelihood that they're going to do that without condoms is
Yep.
so much higher because there's guilt and shame and they don't want to get caught with it and whatever. So it's like, it's all harm reduction.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So much. And yeah, I guess I thought soaking included the jumping. I didn't know it
Mm.
was a separate act. But
I
also
mean,
it's
I'm
like,
no Mormon. This is what I'm hearing from the kids these days.
yeah, no, I think that makes I mean, it makes sense, right? But yeah. But also like hello threesome, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, well,
Little
that's your gateway into being a throuple.
right, little exhibitionism and voyeurism right there. I love
Yes.
it.
You motherfuckers are kinky.
So
So you
kinky.
went from like soaking. So did you? I mean, you don't have to say anything. So you went from dry humping.
I went from dry humping. Yeah, so in all of the like from there's a middle part, right? So from, BYU, then I had a lot of journeys, but still was in the church. When I met the person that I married, I was, I was still going regularly, but my mom had just died. I was having a faith crisis, and I had already started questioning things. I kind of had one foot out, one foot in,
Mm.
spiritually. And then, so a huge thing is like, I mentioned no sex before marriage. So even though I had one foot in and one foot out, and I still like held to that, like no sex before marriage. So and by sex, I mean no penis and vagina.
Yeah,
Like we were doing some other things.
as you do.
Hello, oral.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then once we got married, the oral sex stopped.
That went away, and then it was all the other stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, and I really do like it's all connected, right? Because like those shame scripts, the cultural scripts that we bring in and tie
Yeah.
into that. So I had not had, like, aside from the dry humping, which is very different than actual, like, um, taking your clothes off and having sex with somebody,
Yeah.
and also the cultural context of, like, again, we're pleasing the man, right? And it's all about their pleasure, that sex hurts, like all of these things I thought were like normal. And so I get in my marriage and our libidos, even before we started taking clothes off, like it was very clear that our libidos were different. And he actually brought that up to in a conversation with me early on. And I'm just like, well, that's, yeah, but like that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of justifications that I was making that it was like, this is okay. And I did have, even though I wasn't having sex, like I had interest. I was interested in it, right? And I remember on our honeymoon, like in Vegas, we were in Vegas, and I was like, let's go to a sex shop because like that's what you're supposed to do.
We're
Like,
married now. Like we can do this stuff. We're
yes.
married now. We're allowed to.
Yeah. And like so many things in my marriage, we go there and I didn't know, like we didn't know anything, and um so, I think we grabbed some like flavored lube or something
Yeah.
and maybe one or two other things and then we left. And most of my marriage, the sex was unsatisfying, it was painful, it was very controlled.
Mm.
So I didn't really have a say in my pleasure. And also it was not pleasurable for me. And it was not a size issue.
Yeah.
But anyways, but it was all of the psychological stuff, right?
Yeah.
And also the fact that like there was no variations, we were not changing positions. Like
Keeping to
I
that
went
script. 1, 2, 3, checking off the boxes.
Yes, exactly. And it wasn't as frequent as I would have liked. And I just started shutting it off, and
Mhm.
then I had my child, and just was not having sex. Like I went to a gyno appointment and they were when my period came back after breastfeeding and they were like, "Oh, well, what are you using for birth control?" And I was like, "Abstinence."
Yeah. Well, you
Here's
learned all those lessons, so
I did. And she was like, that doesn't sound fun." And
and you're like,
Ariel,
"What? Sex fun? I don't know what do you mean?"
yes. I was sitting in she's a midwife, so it was like a very like comforting space. And I just was looking at her and I was too embarrassed to be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So I was just like, "Okay." And she was like, "Well, do you and birth like the hormonal birth control doesn't work well for me." So I was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to continue using the birth control meds that I'm using."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, great. It's here for you if when you need it." Um and when sorry, I'm making this probably longer
Yeah, no,
journey than it
I'm
has to
following.
be. But so when I decided to leave my marriage, I had a conversation with a friend who was very much invested. It was a male friend. He's married, he's a doctor, but like I was opening up about like things in my marriage, and he was the first person who was like invested in my pleasure and was
Aw.
asking me all of these questions, and I was just like, you know, putting pieces together about like this is, and he was just like, you know, we're on the phone. He was in a different country, but just really, talking me through this and being like, well, like, what about toys? Like, what about this? What about that? Like, and I got off that phone call. I cried. And then I texted a friend from a group chat that I had been on previously the week before. And I was like, what was the name of that vibrator you were talking about? Put it in like I bought it that night.
Put
It
it in the
came.
group chat.
Yes. Thank you for those group chats.
Yes.
It came and I used it and like it
Came and
was
so did you.
time and time again. Yes.
Yes.
Like so came and I understood like what pleasure was, right?
Mm.
And that had been, getting out of the relationship, getting into new sexual partnerships and experimentation, like and liberation really, and really experimentation as well. just having fun with it. And then I, again, like coming from this Mormon background, I'm thinking everybody else is having sex. Nobody else has the shame. Like because I had it from a very much of a context of like, you're in this religion, it's us versus the world. So the world
Yeah.
is out there like hoeing around and, they have it all figured out. And then when I started having conversations with friends about like the sexual stuff that I was getting up to, and I realized that like, okay, to have conversations about sex is not easy for the majority of people.
Yes,
People,
exactly.
yeah, it was really eye-opening to me to be like, oh, it's not just because I'm Mormon. Yes, it is. Like that's
Yes,
my
and
story.
even when you're not, even when you grow up in a sex positive space, sometimes it's still really hard because we never learned those skills. It was
Yes.
never normalized.
Yes, there's so many different nuances. And you know, I'm a person that can like you, like we can talk about sex, right?
Yeah.
Like openly, like I'll talk about sex with like my, car driver that I just met a second ago and like
Yeah,
shout
it's
out to
not
the
a big
car
deal for us.
to yeah.
Yeah.
Um so I started being that safe place just like the friend was for me, having these conversations with my friends and like I mentioned, there were a few things that happened, like, my time at WHO working on MPOX, going to another symposium on perimenopause and with like a bunch of people that worked in the sex space because it was about having positive sex experiences for people in perimenopause and menopause. And so
Mhm.
Emily Morris was there, like a lot
Yeah.
of these great sex educators and physicians and things of people working in the space. And I was like, I want to be on that stage. I want to be doing what they're doing. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but it's going to happen. And that was about, I think, 2 years ago. And
Wow.
here we are. Yeah. So
Here
it's
we
just been
are.
yes, it's been an exploration. And yeah, and really like stepping into my own pleasure power and wanting to like pay that forward and help others like unlock that for themselves as well with I always like to say with compassion, curiosity, and coming because the coming is important.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my goodness. Well, that brings us to time and I feel like it's a perfect way it's like time to say, well, how can people find you then?
Yes. So you can find my pod, Come Talk with Aimee, COME. And then my name is AIMEE. Anywhere that you get your podcasts, so your favorite podcast platforms. On social media, largely I'm these days using Instagram. My handle is Come Talk with Aimee as well on there. So yeah, please, I'm so excited to have you join on this adventure.
Yeah. And you've got so many great conversations with so many great educators and sexperts. And I'm so grateful to be one of them. So thank you for having me on
Yes.
the show. And definitely do tune in. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your story and your experiences. I love learning about people, especially colleagues. Like, I love learning about how you got to this work because all of our stories are like same but different.
Yes.
There's so many common themes, but they are also so different. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for
And
having me. This is so fabulous. I love it.
yes, thank you so much. And if you would like to follow me, I'm at Birds and Bees Don't Fuck without the U everywhere because censorship is real. And if you can spell my name, good for you. That is where you'll find my Instagram. And I'm on the Birds and Bees Don't Fuck one as well. And come on over to Patreon. Come on over to Patreon. We do have bonus episodes over there. We've got group chats over there. So if you have questions, if you want to have more conversations, speaking of come talk to us. But thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much, Aimee, for being here. This has been such a pleasure.
Yay. Thanks for having me.
Yay.